Unveiling Betrayal, Victoria's Perfect Revenge. My husband cheated with his personal trainer, and I'm planning sweet revenge. I'm Victoria, 31, with what I thought was a dream job, a cozy home, and a marriage that felt right out of a rom-com. But then, out of the blue, Aaron, my usually laid-back husband who'd rather spend his evenings with a cold beer in front of the TV, started changing his stripes. One day, he's your typical beer-loving couch potato, and the next, he swapped the remote for dumbbells and is hitting the gym with a zeal that's honestly baffling. It wasn't just a casual, maybe I'll lose a couple of pounds kind of gym routine. No, Aaron was on it like he was training for the Olympics or something. Gym sessions 7 days a week, sometimes even twice a day. I first noticed something was off when he started leaving for the gym at odd hours. "Got to beat the rush," he'd say with a sort of manic gleam in his eye that I hadn't seen before. The guy who used to scoff at my yoga sessions was suddenly talking about protein shakes, muscle gains, and rest days like he'd been doing it all his life. His wardrobe changed too. Out went the old college tees and sweatpants, and in came the sleek, high-tech gym wear. He even started wearing a new cologne that smelled more like something a suave, young gym trainer would wear, not the man I married. I tried talking to him about his sudden obsession, trying to find out if something was triggering it. Was it a late quarter-life crisis? Was he feeling okay? Each time, he brushed off my concerns with a quick peck on the cheek and a vague, "Just trying to stay healthy, babe." But his eyes, they darted away too quickly, hiding something I couldn't quite put my finger on. It wasn't just the physical changes, though. He became more secretive, his phone suddenly always face down. I noticed our bank statements had charges from a high-end sports store, money spent on fancy gym equipment and supplements. The man I knew who would rather die than miss a Friday night pizza was now all about carb cycling and meal prep Sundays. And then there were the late returns home. The gym was supposedly a 10-minute drive away, yet Aaron would be gone for hours. "Traffic was a nightmare," he'd say, or "met an old buddy for a protein shake." Excuses that seemed plausible at first but started to wear thin with every passing week. The warmth in his voice cooled, and the distance grew, filling the space between us with a tension I couldn't ignore. That's when the dots started connecting in my mind, drawing a picture I didn't want to see but couldn't look away from. My husband, the man who promised to grow old and grey with me, was slipping away, morphing into a stranger with each pumped-up, sweat-slick gym session. That day, my gut just wouldn't settle. The whispers of doubt and the tickle of suspicion had grown too loud to ignore, so I did what anyone would do when plagued by the creeping dread that something in their marriage was amiss. I decided to follow Aaron. I told myself it was to put my mind at ease, to prove my suspicions wrong. But honestly, deep down, part of me feared I was right. I parked a couple of rows back from his usual spot at the gym, my heart hammering as I watched him pull in. I remember thinking how absurd this all was, spying on my own husband. It felt like something out of a cheesy detective show, not something I should be doing on a bright Wednesday morning. But there I was, hunched down in my seat, baseball cap pulled low over my eyes, hoping against hope I was just being paranoid. But then she appeared, Monica, his personal trainer. I recognized her from the Christmas party the gym hosted last year. She was hard to forget, with her bright smile and energetic aura that seemed to captivate everyone around her, including, apparently, my husband. I watched, heart sinking, as they met by her car, not far from where I was hiding. Their casual smiles didn't prepare me for what happened next. It was just a moment, but it felt like an eternity. They looked around cautiously before Aaron leaned in and kissed her. It wasn't a peck or a friendly kiss. It was deep, passionate, the kind that you don't share with just anyone. It felt like a punch to the gut watching them, hidden behind my car window, my hands trembling and a lump forming in my throat. Devastated didn't even begin to cover how I felt. Betrayed, broken, foolish, all of that and more. I drove home in a daze, my mind racing and my heart shattered. That night, as Aaron lay sleeping beside me, oblivious to the storm raging inside me, I did something I never thought I would. I reached for his phone, which he'd casually tossed on the nightstand, his carelessness now another knife in my back. The phone lit up, and there it was, the evidence as clear as day. Texts from Monica, so casual, so intimate. They talked like old lovers, comfortable and familiar. The messages cut through me, each word a confirmation of my worst fears. I hope your wife stays in the dark. We have a strict policy regarding our distance from clients, and I'd rather not have any conflict at work. I adore you, though, my dear. I am waiting for you. What is the estimated time of arrival after our workout today? How about we have dinner at our favourite restaurant? Their lunch menu features some of the tastiest foods that are gluten-free and low in carbs. It was like reading lines from a script meant for a life I was no longer part of. How could he? How could they? She knew about me, yet it didn't stop her. It didn't stop him. I put the phone back, my hands shaking, my mind a mess of anger, pain, and an overwhelming sense of loss. How long had this been going on? How could I have been so blind? Those questions haunted me through the night, keeping me awake as I lay next to the man who had promised to love and cherish me, now a stranger in our bed. I could barely get through 3 or 4 messages before I gave up because I was so repulsed. I didn't want Aaron to think something was wrong. When he was in the bathroom, I pretended to be asleep as I went to bed after taking a deep breath and placing his phone on the side table. That night, after I saw those messages, felt like one of the longest of my life. Every word between Aaron and Monica was a dagger in my heart. I could only stomach a few messages, their plans, their affection for each other so carefree and intimate, before I felt physically ill. The thought of continuing, of seeing more proof of the betrayal, was too much. I tossed Aaron's phone back onto the nightstand, my hands trembling with a mix of rage and sorrow. Lying in bed next to him pretending to be asleep was torture. I wanted so badly to wake him, to confront him right then and there. I imagined myself shaking him awake, demanding answers, or better yet, screaming until I was hoarse, anything to release the storm of emotions brewing inside me. But deep down, I knew that wouldn't get me anywhere. Aaron would have an excuse, a story cooked up and ready to serve. He always had his way with words, and that's when it hit me. The need for a plan, a scheme that would reveal the true extent of his deceit, not just to me, but to him as well. I needed him to feel a fraction of the pain he had inflicted on me. No sudden outbursts or tearful confrontations. This needed to be strategic, something that would hit him where it hurt most. So I spent the rest of the night plotting, turning over scenarios in my mind, each plan more elaborate than the last, until I settled on something fiendishly simple yet satisfying. I decided I would meet Monica. I would get close to her, enter their little world under the guise of innocence, and see for myself the web of lies I was up against, maybe even gather enough evidence to turn their affair on its head. The morning after that sleepless night was oddly serene. As Aaron left for work with a hurried kiss that lacked its usual warmth, I felt a mix of nervous energy and steely determination. I was ready to put my plan into action. The drive to the gym was a blur, my mind reeling with what I was about to do. I pulled into the gym parking lot, the same place where I'd seen Aaron and Monica in their embrace. My hands were steady on the wheel, my resolve firm. I rehearsed what I would say to Monica, how I would confront her and then expose her to her supervisor. It seemed straightforward enough. Walk in, reveal the affair, watch her face crumble. Simple yet satisfying. The gym was bustling with the usual morning crowd, people lost in their routines, headphones in, worlds unto themselves. I spotted Monica almost immediately, her vibrant energy unmistakable as she laughed with a client. Seeing her there so carefree fueled my resolve. I steeled myself and walked towards her, ready for confrontation, but just as I was about to approach, something unexpected happened. Monica's client, an elderly woman I recognized from some community events, suddenly lost her balance on the treadmill. Monica's quick reflexes saved the woman from a nasty fall, and she handled the situation with such genuine care and professionalism that it took me aback. It was a side of her I hadn't anticipated, compassionate, skilled, entirely at odds with the homewrecker I had painted in my mind. For a moment I hesitated. The gym fell into a sudden hush as other trainers and clients rushed over to help, and Monica was right there directing them, ensuring the woman was attended to before anything else. After the woman was taken care of and the commotion settled, Monica turned, and her eyes met mine. I moved forward, my original intent simmering beneath a surface of newfound complexity. As I approached, she greeted me with a bright, unsuspecting smile, so dazzling it could have blinded me as I entered the gym. "Hello, how are you doing? Can I help you with something?" Her voice was warm and inviting. She had no idea I even existed. The irony was too good to ignore. I paused, the words I had rehearsed suddenly heavy on my tongue. In that moment, my plan shifted. Instead of the harsh confrontation I had envisioned, I found myself saying, "Yes, I'm looking for a personal trainer. Can we talk?" I realized I had to stop before I could interrupt her and reveal that I wasn't just some client trying to get in shape. Rather, I was the wife of her lover. So I agreed to it rather than make a scene. Monica's smile widened. "Of course. Let's sit down and discuss what you're looking for," she said, obviously happy to welcome a new customer. After making that fake appointment, I left the gym with a smirk tugging at the corners of my mouth. The irony of the situation was delicious. Monica, the woman who was unknowingly wrecking my marriage, was now scheduled to be my personal trainer. As I drove away, thoughts of the upcoming encounter danced in my head. If only she knew who I really was, and the secret agenda hidden behind my friendly facade. Our first training session was a mix of awkwardness for me and professionalism for her. Monica was all smiles, demonstrating routines and correcting my posture with a gentle touch here and there. It was an odd feeling, playing the part of a clueless client, knowing all too well the intimate details of her relationship with Aaron. As weeks turned into months, our sessions became a regular part of my life. Monica started opening up about her life, her dreams, and, ironically, her challenges with past relationships. The more I knew about her, the more complex my feelings became. She wasn't just the other woman in my husband's life. She was a person with her own stories and struggles. Our relationship evolved beyond the gym. Coffee dates after a sweaty session became our thing. We'd laugh over lattes about silly gym mishaps or debate the best protein bars. On weekends, we sometimes went shopping, browsing through racks of clothing, joking and offering fashion advice like old college friends. Throughout this time, I was changing. The physical strength I gained from workouts was just one aspect. Emotionally, I was becoming someone new, more resilient, more composed, and somehow more understanding. Monica was inadvertently sculpting me into a stronger version of myself, not just physically, but in a way that fortified my spirit and resolve. Every coffee sip, every shared smile, I couldn't help but wonder how this would all end. Would revealing my true identity and intention shatter the bond we had formed, or would it somehow liberate both of us from the lies that entangled our lives? These thoughts haunted me, but I pushed them aside, focusing on the present, on the strength I was gaining in the intricate dance of friendship and deception that was unfolding. It was a game of emotional chess, and I was making my moves with cautious precision. As the weeks slipped by, Aaron couldn't help but notice the changes in me. It wasn't just the obvious physical transformation, the toned arms, the firmer stance, the way my clothes hung a little looser around a slimming waist. It was more than that. There was a new light in my eyes, a spark of something he hadn't seen in a long time, something that reminded him of the woman he fell in love with, only stronger, more confident. Each time I spoke of my new friend, the mysterious personal trainer who was helping me find myself again, I could see the curiosity tinged with suspicion in his eyes. He'd never met Monica, of course. I kept her identity and our sessions vague, a deliberate mystique added to keep him on edge. "She's just amazing, so inspiring," I'd say casually over dinner, watching his expression change, a mixture of intrigue and unease playing across his features. This wasn't meant to be a part of my initial plan, but I couldn't deny the satisfaction it brought me. Aaron's growing fascination with my changes had an unexpected yet welcome side effect. He started pulling away from Monica, perhaps intimidated by my independence, or maybe out of guilt, fearing that his own secrets might unravel as I embraced this new version of myself. His texts became less frequent, his late nights shortened, and his mentions of the gym carried a hint of obligation rather than enthusiasm. Monica, on her part, seemed unaware of the shift in Aaron's behaviour. With him stepping back, she had more time on her hands, time that she often chose to spend with me. But with every passing day, as our friendship grew, so did my internal conflict. The lines between deception and genuine connection blurred, leaving me to grapple with the unfolding moral complexities of my actions. Was the satisfaction of seeing Aaron's guilt and confusion worth the potential cost of betraying someone who was, despite everything, becoming a real friend? That evening was tinged with an unusual tension as Aaron lingered by the doorway, watching me with a mixture of hope and desperation. The usual hum of our home felt quieter, more charged. Maybe it was the way the sunset threw shadows across the living room. Or maybe it was the unspoken words hanging between us, but everything felt different. "Hey Vic, how about dinner at our favourite restaurant? I'll be home at 6, so we can spend some quality time together and eat some delicious food, huh?" His voice had that old, familiar warmth, but the edges were frayed with anxiety. As he spoke, he reached out, his fingers gently massaging my hair in a way he knew I once loved. It felt like a plea, a subtle beg for the evening to erase the growing distance he surely felt but couldn't understand. I paused, feeling the weight of his gaze, heavy with unasked questions. My response was ready, a part of the script I had been silently writing in my mind over the past months. "I have to meet my boyfriend, but I would really like to. Since I can't break my word, this is essential. Maybe another time," I said, the words light and airy, as if I was talking about something as mundane as a coffee date, not dropping the bombshell that I had someone new in my life. The smile I offered was measured, just wide enough to seem genuine, but hiding the turbulence underneath. I picked up my purse, feeling his stare intensify, burning into me with a mix of confusion and the dawning realization of what I had just said. Turning towards the door, I could feel the shift in the air, the slight catch of his breath, the soft shuffle of his feet, a man unmoored. Aaron's confusion was palpable, his voice faltering as he repeated, "Boyfriend?" The word hung awkwardly between us, heavy and out of place. His eyes searched mine for a joke, a hint that this was just a tease, a playful jab like those we used to share. But all he found was my back as I walked towards the door, the click of my heels punctuating this new distance between us. As I stepped out, I couldn't help but suppress a chuckle, not out of amusement, but from the sheer surrealness of the moment. Here I was, spinning tales and weaving webs, playing a role that months ago I would have never imagined. The evening air was cool, a gentle breeze playing through the trees, a stark contrast to the heated confusion I left behind. I walked to my car, parked under the flickering streetlight at the end of our driveway. Inside, the quiet was profound, a silent witness to the pivotal shift taking place. Sitting there for a moment, I let the weight of my decisions sink in. This was more than a dinner invitation. It was the next pivotal move in a game of calculated risks and hidden motives. Pulling out my phone, I found Monica's number and hesitated for just a second. This dinner could cement our friendship or set the stage for the unraveling of everything. The screen lit up as I dialed, casting a glow in the dim light of the car. Monica picked up after a couple of rings, her voice bright and unsuspecting. "Hey, Monica," I was thinking, "why don't we celebrate our friendship? How about dinner at La Petite Maison?" It's been such a great journey getting to know you, and I think we deserve a little celebration. Just us girls, I said, injecting a cheerful tone into my voice, masking the undercurrent of my true intentions. Oh, that sounds wonderful, Victoria. I'd love to. When were you thinking? Monica's enthusiasm was genuine, and for a brief moment I felt a pang of guilt for the deception. Tomorrow evening works for me. Does 7 p.m. sound good? I proposed, already planning the sequence of events in my mind. Perfect. It's a date then. I'll see you there, she replied, her voice bubbling with excitement. Great, it's a date, I echoed, my words laced with double meanings. After hanging up, I sat in the quiet of my car a little longer, going over the details of what was to come. The restaurant I had chosen was classy and intimate, an ideal setting for what I had planned. It was popular enough to be a treat, but not so crowded as to draw attention to our conversation. I started the car and drove off, the engine's purr a steady backdrop to my racing thoughts. Tomorrow's dinner would be a turning point one way or another. Either it would push my plans forward, or it would expose cracks in my resolve. But either way, I was ready. This wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about reclaiming my life, about stepping out of the shadows of deceit and into a light of my own making. The evening of the dinner was draped in an almost cinematic allure, with the city lights twinkling like distant stars and the restaurant bathed in the soft, warm glow of chandeliers. The tables were set with crisp linens and sparkling glassware, creating a refined but inviting ambiance. I arrived a few minutes early, taking a moment to absorb the setting, each detail sharpening my resolve for what was about to unfold. Monica arrived looking radiant, her smile wide as she approached the table. Her enthusiasm was infectious, and for a moment it was easy to forget the complex web of deceit that had drawn us here. We exchanged pleasantries and sat down, the clink of our glasses punctuating the start of what was supposed to be a celebratory dinner. She was about to propose a toast to our friendship, her glass raised in anticipation, when the unexpected happened. The restaurant door opened, and in walked Aaron. His entrance was like a scene straight out of a movie, unexpected, dramatic, and perfectly timed. Monica? What are you doing here? The look on his face as he spotted us together was a mix of confusion and shock, his steps faltering as he tried to process the scene before him. Do you know each other? Aaron's expression of utter horror was striking. The room seemed to stand still, the background noise fading into a muted hush as all eyes turned toward our table. I saw regret wash over him. Monica's glass hovered in midair, her smile fading into a look of confusion. She turned to me, her eyes searching for an explanation, then back to Aaron, trying to gauge his reaction. The air was thick with tension, each second stretching into eternity as the pieces began to fall into place in her mind. Dressed in a gorgeous red outfit that accentuated my newfound confidence, I maintained my composure, my face a mask of serene confidence. Inside, my heart was racing, but outwardly, I was the picture of calm. Aaron, how unexpected to see you here, I said, my voice steady, betraying none of the turmoil that churned beneath the surface. Aaron approached our table, his initial shock giving way to a cautious curiosity. I didn't realize you two knew each other, he said, his eyes darting between us, looking for answers in our expressions. The situation was ripe with irony, the secret connections and hidden truths all converging in this unexpected public confrontation. Monica set her glass down, her cheerful demeanor replaced by a growing realization of the situation's gravity. Yes, we've become good friends, she managed to say, her voice a mix of defiance and uncertainty. The waiter approached, oblivious to the undercurrents swirling around our table, and cheerfully asked if we were ready to order. It was almost comical, this return to mundane matters after such a dramatic revelation. Aaron waved him away, his mind clearly elsewhere, focused on the unfolding drama. As Aaron stood there, the pieces of the puzzle slowly coming together in his mind, I could see the conflict play out across his face. Surprise, betrayal, realization. It was all there. a silent testimony to the complexity of human emotions. As the tension at our table reached a palpable level, I decided it was time to take control of the evening. Standing up, I took a spoon and gently tapped it against my glass, the clear, crisp sound cutting through the murmur of the restaurant. Heads turned toward us, curious eyes and hushed whispers filling the room as I prepared to address the gathered crowd. "Good evening, everyone," I began, my voice steady and projecting a confidence that I felt was crucial to maintain in that moment. "Let me introduce myself as Victoria and say how much I appreciate these two individuals in my life." I gestured gracefully towards Aaron and Monica, giving them each a nod that was both acknowledging and measured. The room fell into a deeper silence, the patrons and staff alike sensing the unfolding drama. "I appreciate you accepting my invitation to dinner tonight, Aaron and Monica. I would like to share with you," I continued, pausing momentarily as I noticed Aaron's nervous hand movements. He was fidgeting, his fingers twisting a napkin, his discomfort visible to all. This pause was deliberate, a moment to let the weight of my words sink in, not just for Aaron and Monica, but for everyone in earshot. The clicking of the glass had not only served to silence the room, but also to fortify my resolve. "I've learned a lot about honesty and integrity these past months," I continued, my gaze sweeping over the audience, then settling on Aaron and Monica. "Tonight is about truth and revelation. It's about understanding that the choices we make affect not just our lives, but those around us. Aaron, Monica, you both have been pivotal in teaching me these lessons." The words hung in the air, heavy with meaning and implication. Aaron's eyes widened slightly, a hint of fear or perhaps realization dawning upon him. Monica, ever the composed one, maintained a steady, if somewhat strained, smile, but her eyes were cautious, wary of what I might reveal next. "This dinner," I said, pausing to gather my thoughts, "is my way of saying thank you. Thank you for the lessons, for the pain, and for the strength I've gained. It was necessary, and it has prepared me for a new chapter." My voice was calm but carried an undercurrent of deep emotion that I could feel bubbling just beneath the surface. As the dinner guests around us resumed their subdued chatter, I leaned forward, my voice dropping to a more intimate timbre, ensuring that Aaron and Monica could hear every word distinctly. "I have undergone a mental and physical transformation in the last 3 months," I began, my gaze locking onto Aaron's, which flickered with a cocktail of emotions. Regret, fear, perhaps a touch of admiration. "Aaron, my love, you saw the change and were scared, right?" His eyes darted away, unable to hold my stare, his discomfort visible as he adjusted his collar, a subtle acknowledgement of my accusation. "You pushed your lover away because you believed you would lose me." Turning slightly, I addressed Monica, who had maintained a composed facade until now. "Furthermore, Monica, my dear friend, you had no idea how important you are to my greater plan." Her expression, which had been one of polite attention, cracked just a bit. The corners of her eyes tightened, her smile faltered, and there was a subtle shift in her posture as she leaned back slightly, as if the weight of my words physically impacted her. Monica's face was a canvas of confusion and dawning realization. The atmosphere at the table thickened, charged with the tension of my revelations. The clatter of cutlery and murmur of voices around us seemed to fade into the background as this private drama unfolded in its own quiet storm. "This was the one she didn't expect," I continued, my voice softer now, more reflective. "You see, every step of my newfound journey, every session at the gym, every coffee, every shopping trip, it wasn't just about rebuilding myself or forming a friendship. It was about setting the stage, about crafting a scenario where the truths could no longer stay hidden." As I spoke these words, I could see the cogs turning in Monica's mind, the pieces falling into place. Her initial shock was replaced by a deeper, more resigned understanding. She looked from me to Aaron and back again, her eyes narrowing not with anger, but with a sort of pained acceptance. Aaron, meanwhile, sat frozen, his earlier nervous energy now stilled by the gravity of my words. He knew in this moment that the dynamics of our relationships, his with Monica, mine with him, and my unlikely friendship with her, had been irrevocably altered. The facade had not only cracked but shattered, revealing the stark and complicated truth beneath. "The twist is that I found someone new who loves me for who I am," I said, pausing to savor the moment. At that exact moment, an elegant man walked into the restaurant with almost perfect timing. He came straight to our table and took my hand. His warm touch was all I needed. "My announcement, everyone meet my new friend, Jack," I declared. The introduction was met with a mixture of amazement and skepticism from those seated around the table. "As far as you're concerned, Aaron," I began, my voice steady and resolute, "I'm getting a divorce." I paused, letting the words hang between us, stark and undeniable. "Remember our prenup? The one that mentioned cheating?" My eyes held his, unflinching as I watched the realization sink in, the colour draining from his face. He opened his mouth, possibly to object or to plead, but no words came. I nodded towards Monica, adding, "Thanks to my new best friend here, I have all the evidence I need. So everything you own will soon be mine." Then I turned my attention to Monica, who had been a silent spectator to my revelation to Aaron. Her face was a mask of controlled emotion, but her eyes betrayed a hint of fear, uncertainty about what my words would mean for her. "Of course, I'm telling your boss everything, my dear Monica," I continued, the tone of my voice softer but every bit as firm. "It's not a good idea to try to rob someone of their husband. I'm sorry, but it looks like you're going to have to find a new gym." Her reaction was subtle, a slight tightening of her jaw, a fleeting look of resignation. This was not the outcome she had anticipated when she became involved with Aaron, and now she faced the professional repercussions of those choices. The table was silent, the tension like a thick fog around us. The rest of the restaurant carried on, unaware, the clink of glasses and the murmur of conversations a distant backdrop to our personal drama. I looked between Aaron and Monica, seeing the impact of my words settling over them. This was not just a confrontation, but a declaration of my newfound strength and independence. Turning back to Aaron, I softened my tone slightly, not out of sympathy, but out of a desire to close this chapter with a semblance of dignity. "We had good times, Aaron, but you chose this path. I wish things could have been different." The atmosphere in the restaurant was charged as the finality of my words sunk in. Monica's face, previously composed, now mirrored a mix of shock and dawning comprehension as she realized her role in the narrative I had carefully constructed. Her shock was palpable, her eyes wide as she grappled with the realization that she had been merely a pawn in my broader strategy. Across from her, Aaron's complexion turned a ghostly shade of pale, his features etched with disbelief and despair. He opened his mouth to say something, perhaps an apology or an explanation, but the words seemed to fail him. "Vic, I'm so—" he began, his voice a hoarse whisper, but I was not there to listen to half-hearted apologies or excuses anymore. "Keep it. I've had enough," I interrupted sharply, my tone final, leaving no room for ambiguity. My words cut through the tense air, severing whatever feeble hope Aaron might have held that this could be mended. Monica, still reeling from the revelation, made a feeble attempt to apologize, her voice trembling slightly. I didn't realize." "Maybe next time you'll think twice before getting involved with a married man," I said, cutting her off as well. The edge in my voice was not just from bitterness, but also from a reborn sense of self-worth, a declaration that I would no longer be a victim in anyone's story, including my own. As Aaron and Monica gathered their things, their movements sluggish, weighed down by their own guilt and regret, they left the restaurant. Their exit was quiet, almost pitiful, a stark contrast to the bombastic drama that had just unfolded. Left at the table with Jack, the friend who had stood by me through this transformation, we watched them leave, a symbolic closure to the chaos that had upended my life. Jack and I then turned to each other, a knowing look between us. We raised our glasses, the crystal catching the light, sparkling as brightly as the resolve in our eyes. To honesty, new love, and perfect revenge, I toasted, the words feeling like a cleansing breath. Jack echoed the sentiment, his smile supportive and understanding. As we clinked glasses, the sounds of the restaurant returned to my awareness. The gentle hum of conversations, the soft music playing in the background, life moving around us. This toast wasn't just about reveling in the downfall of those who had wronged me. It was a celebration of rebirth, of reclaiming control over my narrative and stepping into a future where I was the author of my own life story.